I have a PowerPoint we can go through, and also it also has the history of Dave Elman, a little short history. Um, I tend to make it a little shorter. If any of you ever got to meet my husband, Larry Elman, he was a man with stories, and people would follow him around, and he was a storyteller. I'll keep it more short. So let me share my screen. Oh, sharing's not on yet. Did you forget to make me a co-host?
Lawrence. It's hard to find good help, Cheryl.
I know.
Tell
You have
ya.
that problem in Australia too?
I'll tell you what, that's why he's got me as his admin. So let's take a look. Yeah. It's just looking at participants' rename, unmute, start video request, record, start recording. Oh,
Oh, what you do is you click on the three dots on my picture, and it should open it up to me, and then you could say make co-host.
there we go. So, yeah. I was just making sure that the participant settings were set so that you could share. Can you share now? Has it come up on your screen?
Let's see. Share. Yes.
Good. We can share all participants. That's what I was looking for. There we go. There we go. Beautiful.
Okay. So let me just go to the beginning. Whoops. Hold it. This is in my way. Slideshow. And from the beginning. Okay. And one other thing I wanted to do on the Zoom, I need to get the sound going. So let's see. Share computer sound. Okay. Share computer sound. It is. Okay. All right. So I did this years ago, and it was the first time I ever did any animation. So I have a few places where things bounce. Oops. That was so much fun. I have no idea how I did it. It was years ago. But so this is basically the blueprint of the Dave Elman induction. But what I'm going to do differently now is I'm going to go ahead and give you some modifications for working in groups and working in working in groups and also working in one-on-one on the computer and working online in groups. So you'll have some modifications because years ago, everybody just saw their clients in person. Today, we do a lot of different things with it, don't we? So as I go along, I'll give you some. But Dave Elman his father was Jacob Kopelman, and Jake was a hobbyist in hypnosis. And he lived out in North Dakota, and he traveled, and he provided wigs and makeup and things having to do with stage and for stores all around the Midwest. So he would travel around, and a lot of vaudeville shows bought stuff from him. So he had met hypnotists along the way. Jacob did, and he became a bit of a hobbyist, um, and Dave got to see Jake use hypnosis when he was about 6. He hypnotized this girl who was stuttering, and when he hypnotized her, she was able to stop stuttering when she was in hypnosis, but he didn't have much command as to having post hypnotic suggestions. So when he brought her out, she started stuttering again. So Dave was like at the age of 6, like, what good is that? And, didn't really have much interest. Well, a few years later, Jake contracted cancer, and he was in a lot of pain, and he was in bed, and he wasn't able to get out anymore. And somebody who was a hypnotist, and I remember Larry and Gil Boyne having discussions as to who that hypnotist was that had stopped by. Um, and I've had other people, so I'm not sure who that hypnotist was that stopped by, but he visited with Jacob, and and he hypnotized him, and Jake was able to get out of bed, play with the kids. A few days later, he went off on the train to go collect from some of his people that owed his customers that owed him money, and he died on the way back. And his wife, um, Lena, would always curse at the fact that he died before he switched trains. So she could not, it was in another state, and she could not retrieve his body back to um, North Dakota. So he got buried elsewhere. So after Jake's death, and after Dave had seen Jake able to get up and move around, he hadn't gone out of bed for weeks. He was in so much pain that he was going, maybe there is something to this hypnosis. Dave was an avid reader, and he was 8 years old. And when, all the sisters and brothers, they were dividing up some of Jake's things. What Dave asked for was his books on hypnosis. Back then it was hard to find books. Even today, yeah, they're not in every bookstore. Back then, you had to go to the occult bookstores or the occult section of a bookstore to find it. So he started reading some of the books on hypnosis, and and he and he'll talk a little bit more about it. But one of the things he read was Hippolyte Bernheim's book, and so he started playing with what he said, and he started developing his own techniques, and couldn't understand why it would take so long. So he started playing with it, and his schoolmates became his test subjects. And he did that for a few years, and about when he was about 12 in 1912, I think he sort of got the basics of the Dave Elman induction, and he added in that fractionation step, and that made all the difference. And you'll get to hear him describing that. And Dave really, he played violin. All the kids in the family had to learn instruments. They had the Kopelman Orchestra, and so he played sax and violin, and he was always interested in vaudeville. And so, in some of our childhoods, we would have heard, "Oh, I'm going to run off and join a circus." Well, he ran off and joined vaudeville. He was about 15 or so, and so he would do hypnosis there. He would do skits, and so he was off to vaudeville. Let me move my Zoom command so I can get to the other stuff. Sorry. Let me move that up out of the way. Doesn't get in your way up there, does it? I don't think so. All right. Okay. So in vaudeville, what was vaudeville? Vaudeville was like a traveling show, and there would be a troupe, maybe, um, maybe 10 to 30 people, depending on how big it was, what they were doing. And so there's Dave reading a Yiddish newspaper doing comedy, and there's Dave playing the sax, and the woman there was actually a man, and I think it was like sort of like I guess singing. And then that's Dave Elman about when he was 17 years old, and about 1917 in his bowler and tuxedo costume for vaudeville. What killed vaudeville? Well, right around the time when movie theaters came along, you know, um, all it took was, as Larry would say, one pimply teenager to run the reel. And they didn't need to put up all these people in, in the hotel and feed them and pay their travel or anything. It was just one thing, and people could watch it. So that's what killed vaudeville. When vaudeville died, or when his troupe ended, he actually was in New York, right around New York, and he stayed there, and he became a songwriter. He was writing for W.C. Handy, who was actually a Black producer who did blues and jazz. And he liked Dave's music so much that a few of them, when he had people working for them, all the music was published under his name. But he actually took some of the music and actually put it in Dave Elman's name. Why did all of a sudden Dave change his name to from Kopelman to Elman? Well, when it was on a marquee, and as he got bigger and became a radio producer, and he did his Hobby Lobby radio show, Kopelman didn't fit very well as a top billing on a marquee. So he dropped the first three letters and it became Elman. And that's how that name came about. Um, he had a radio program, Hobby Lobby, which was um, it was a program where people came on and they wrote in about unusual hobbies. So it could have been somebody boxing kangaroos. That was actually one to see. Australia was representative. Boxing kangaroos was one of the shows. They had a guy that went in and to different offices and collected their letterheads and wrote letters to people on it. I actually have one. I gave it to our son, Dave Elman, another Dave Elman, and that he has it somewhere in his music room over in Missouri. Um, and so he did that from 1940, no, 1937. Larry's birth was actually announced on Hobby Lobby radio program in December of 1938. And then that ended. What ended that was TV came along, and that sort of took the place of radio, of everybody sitting around and listening to radio. But if you think about radio, there was a studio audience, and how did you get the whole US that's listening to the program? How do you get them at home to react to what was going on the studio stage there, with the studio audience? So Dave got really good at patter of, he would repeat what he was seeing or ask what they were doing. And so as it was happening, the people in the audience that were out there at home would get the concept and be able to visualize. He was so good at describing things, he was able to visualize what they were all seeing it in person. So that all gathered and helped when it came to later on in medical hypnosis to his patter and getting people to visualize and emote. So that was pretty cool. He also during that time did a war bond auction and victory auction where they auctioned off items that people donated, a lot of them celebrities and different things, and people would bid on them they'd have to buy the bonds to win it, and they would pay for it with that. And he did also benefit shows in hypnosis. And it was around that time that some doctors had seen him doing some hypnosis shows, and he was approached by a group of physicians and dentists to teach them medical hypnosis because they had tried, and some of them had studied hypnosis, but basically a lot of people were using progressive muscle relaxation or storytelling, and it didn't really help. When a doctor could only see a patient for X period of time, they needed something quicker. And Dave had perfected getting people into hypnosis in 2 to 4 minutes, and they wanted to be able to do that. So when they asked him, he goes, well, I don't really know much about about medical. I'm not a doctor or anything. They said, we know the medical. You need to bring your talents, your knowledge to us so that we could utilize it. And so he started teaching. Larry always liked this picture because Dave Elman was always lecturing. There he was lecturing to a medical hypnosis class in about 1951. And there he is lecturing to a toy monkey in 1917. So we always tell people that, when they're learning to do hypnosis, if they don't have anybody to practice on, to just stick a little monkey or a stuffed animal on a chair and practice on it. And Larry always used to claim that when accused of talking too much, he just claims that it's genetic. It's part of his dad. So Dave, his definition of hypnosis was bypassing the critical factor or faculty. He used both terms, and establishing selective thinking. So, and he created his induction is a process approach. It's not a script. It's not, and it's client-centered hypnosis. So you really are working with whatever comes from the client. Not reading from scripts specifically. It's built on convincers, deepeners, and confirmations. Convincers for both the client and also sometimes for the hypnotist. Ooh, that worked. That felt good, right? Deepeners. Deepeners are always um, uh, part of testing also, because there's also tests involved that needs to be there. It should be convincers, deepeners, and confirmations. And confirmation for the hypnotist to know where they're at in the process. Where are they in the depth? Are they listening? Are they away? So all different interactive things that you did with them. And they're all forms of tests also. So the Elman induction is built on a bunch of tests, convincers, deepeners, and confirmations. It's based on good semantics and forming suggestions. And so we've mapped out 6 steps. I know a lot of people taught it as 4 steps, 5 steps. We added a step at the end, which I'll explain as we go. So, whoops. Oop, more bouncing. Okay. So, whoops, come back. The first process step is catalepsy of a group of small muscles by suggestion. So what we would commonly call eye closure, eye lock. And it's at this point that they felt that we were bypassing the critical faculties. So when you say to somebody, go ahead and close your eyes and relax all those muscles around your eyes to the point they just don't want to work. And when you're sure they just don't want to work, go ahead and test them. Or some people are not as conducive to the word test, so prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. I tend to say that more. And then when they can't open their eyes, I say, well, good, you could stop testing, because now they have passed that test. I think back in those days, the word test did not have the same sometimes negative connotations that we have, because we have to pass tests to get it through to the next levels. They would have quizzes and tests on units and stuff. When we were younger, we didn't have to have these mass standardized tests that you have to pass in certain grades or you just don't go any further. There's drug tests, there's tests to get your jobs, there's just a lot of tests all the time. So the word test can sometimes, people have test anxiety, so sometimes I just say prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. That's right. Okay, and then the next step would be take that feeling of relaxation that you have around your eyes and bring it up to the top of your head and bring it down across your body like a blanket of relaxation all the way down to the tips of your toes. If you are working online, you might not know what their distractions are. When I worked in my office and I would know what the distractions were there, I might mention, during this process today, you may find you might hear the air conditioner going on and off, or people outside walking by, or whatever the noises are. One of my first offices, I was next door to a hair salon, and I'd hear the hair dryer going sometimes. So you could just name some of those things. And if you're online, you may have them just go ahead and make sure if they have animals, maybe to put them in the next room. Sometimes I don't know what it is about animals, but they tend to, when somebody's in hypnosis, they tend to like climb on their lap and check on them. I know they know that their person is doing something different. So sometimes I might suggest that they move the animals to another room. And the next thing is fractionation. He did not call it fractionation. He, in fact, did not call it Dave Elman induction either. But he called it 3 trips to Bernheim. And instead of me telling you the story, I'm going to let Dave tell you the story. So I'm going to start it, and I just want to make sure you can hear it.
It is at this point in our teachings
Give me a
that I
thumbs
show
up.
the doctors
Yeah.
the preferred method of achieving deep hypnosis. After I have showed the method, I then say to the doctors, "Why did I do that?" Well, I'll tell you. It's because a man wrote about hypnosis honestly way back in 1880 or 1890 or something like that. When I was a little kid studying hypnosis, I can remember leaning on the showcase of my mother's store in Fargo, North Dakota, reading this book avidly. And in this one chapter, he tells about how the patient would come to him the first week, and he'd try to hypnotize him, and he'd get him into a light state. He'd come back the second week, and he'd do it again, and again he'd go into a light state. Come back the third time, and he'd go into a little bit deeper state. Come back the fourth time, and he'd go into a little bit deeper state, until by about the fifth week, he reached a state known as somnambulism, which could be identified by the fact that suggestions for amnesia can be given in it. And that not only can suggestions for amnesia be given in it, which the patient will accept, but oftentimes the patient brings on to himself an amnesia. And he separates the state from the waking state by this amnesia. And you'll find that he has this amnesia from the time the critical factor is bypassed until the critical factor is brought back into focus again. Now, I read this, and I read it again. I knew the values of the somnambulistic state because my father had already told me about that, and he'd showed it to me again and again and again, and it taught me quite a bit about it. But when I was old enough to read for myself and read this book, how the first week he went into a light state, the second week he went into a light state, the third week he went into a light state, by the fourth week he started to go deeper, and by about the fifth week he went into somnambulism. I said to myself, as a little kid will do, not knowing how busy a doctor is, well, Dr. Bernheim, after all, if you wanted to produce somnambulism quicker, why didn't you ask him to come back to your office every day? Then instead of taking 5 weeks, you could have done it in 5 days. Then, as the child mind raced on, it said you wouldn't have even had to have him come back every day. You could have had him stick around your office and brought him in every hour, we'll say, and done that 5 times, and you would have had somnambulism in 5 hours. Then I said, well, wait a second, why send him out of your office at all? Instead, why didn't you just put him under, bring him out, put him under, bring him out, put him under, bring him out, and I'll bet if what you say is true, you'd have somnambulism within 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. He had written so truthfully, friends, that when I tried it on the first person, I obtained somnambulism intentionally, faster than it had ever been obtained intentionally in the history of the world. Now, I'm not saying that they hadn't sought hypnosis when they tried, but nobody knew that somnambulism could be achieved instantaneously by intention. It was always a chance whether you got somnambulism or not. You'd get somnambulism on many people instantaneously, and I'm not trying to say that I discovered somnambulism. Oh, no. No. All I discovered was that Bernheim wrote so truthfully that if I did what he said to do, and did it my way, that is, give him 5 visits instantaneously, that you had somnambulism instantaneously. By this technique, I was able then to give them 3 visits to Bernheim. That's what I used to call them. And produce somnambulism in about a minute, whereas up to then it had taken 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and they're still teaching that today. And so when I venture to teach faster methods, I am criticized, but I know that in the final analysis, in the long run, if you're ever going to make hypnosis a permanent tool in medicine or dentistry, you must have it available to you on an instantaneous basis. I want the doctor to be able to use hypnosis as rapidly as I use it, and many of my students do. Now, that's not braggadocio, you ask them. Watch what I do when I give her 3 visits to Bernheim now. Close your eyes, won't you please? Now, when I have her open and close her eyes again, I'm getting the advantage of a post-hypnotic suggestion simply by saying to her in the hypnotic state, which she now is, I say to her, in a moment I'm going to have you open and close your eyes again, and when you do, you'll be 10 times more relaxed than you are already. Now, because it is a post-hypnotic suggestion, it gets the full potency of that post-hypnotic suggestion. Now, open your eyes. Now close them. And here's your second visit to Bernheim. Now then, we want to give her 3 visits to Bernheim because the 2 post-hypnotic suggestions are as powerful as though she had 5 visits. So we'll say, open your eyes, close them, and now we have depth already if Bernheim wrote truthfully, which means that now she is ready for a test for somnambulism, and the test has been so contrived that if it doesn't prove that the somnambulism is there, it will induce the somnambulism. After the doctors have learned and practiced the repeated induction technique.
Okay. Raise your hand if that's the first time you've ever heard Dave Elman's voice. You know, one of the things Larry teaches or always taught was, some people thought he was very authoritarian when he spoke. Did you find that at all? No, it's very conversational. He talks, and it's just, like talking across. One of the things he talks about is talking across to them, as opposed to talking down at them or at them. So the eyes are the predominant method of fractionation. It's interesting also. He talks about doing it 5 times and then he calls it 3 trips to Bernheim. So Mike Mandel, who's over in Canada, when I've watched his demos, they were always 5 times. I'm going, how did he get that 5? Until I've listened to this so many times and he does say 5 times in there. So it's interesting. And here he's just in this recording, he's saying, open your eyes and close your eyes. Whereas when we do it and other places in the book and other recordings, he'll instead say, we talked about bringing it all the way down to your toes. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to go perhaps 10 times deeper into this nice feeling of hypnosis or this nice relaxation, whatever you want to use, so go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Now, when we were working with them in person, we would go like this, so that they're not distracted by things around you. Working online, you can go like this on the camera. So when they open their eyes, they're not seeing you. So it can go like this. And that feeling of going up and down. And in a moment, and good. And in a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to go perhaps double that sense of relaxation that you have right now. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. When I'm working in a group, I'm like an orchestra leader. I'll go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes, and use your voice. Your voice is your instrument. Okay, good. You're doing great. Now, in a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to go as deep as you like. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Good. You're doing great. Going down, down, deeper and deeper. Excellent. So the eyes are the predominant thing, but is it the only thing you can use? No. You can use some people are not comfortable closing their eyes. Maybe they were abused when they were younger. They just met you. They have issues with it. So you can do other things. You could if the hand was on a table, you can have glue their fingers. Their fingers are so relaxed they just can't. They can't even lift up. Try to move your finger, try to lift your finger and you can't, try to lift it and you can't. You know, that's hard to see when you're online, but you could see it on the chair or on the table when you're there. You can also, I've gone and had them. I was thinking of Bob Burns with his swan when I studied with him in a few different places around the world. And so you can have them put their hands right there on their cheek, and you can have them have their fingers glued to their to their face and try to, and you could have them move the hand and bring it back, move the hand and bring it back, but yet if they weren't going to do the eye closure, you can have it glued there and try to have them move the hand for the first group, for the first step, and not be able to, or not be able to move their finger. So you can do a variety of different things um, other than just the eyes. Sometimes it's harder, to see their eyes when when you're online with them. They might be sitting a little further back and you can't see their eyes as well. So you can come up with different things. But whatever it is, you do it 3 times, and each time they do it, they're going to go that much deeper. And so you're doing it by suggestion. Okay. So it's that same feeling of going up and down types of fractionation. Okay. Then there could be catalepsy of a group of large muscles by suggestion. So the original one was the wet dish rag, the arm drop, where in a moment I'm going to lift your hand by the wrist, just let it be loose and relaxed, and let your arm just totally relax. And when it plops down, just allow yourself to go that much deeper or double that sense of relaxation. Okay. Now, that's hard to do when you're working online. So what do? You can go ahead and have them. I have a make a fist. And actually, I do a lot of studying and work with Jason Linett. And what he started doing was having them, before he ever starts the session with them, he'll have them make a fist and lift their arm straight out. Okay. And then he'll go, during this process today, I'm probably going to have you go ahead and make a fist and put your arm out, and you know exactly what to do now. So he'll establish that before he even goes in. And go ahead and make a fist and bring your arm out and just have that rigidity, feelings rigid, and have it go up into your wrist and up into your elbow, stiff and rigid, up into your shoulder, as if there's a bar of steel going down the center of your arm, stiff and rigid. And now, if I were in person, I would have them try to bend their arm. And this is what Dave used initially, because he came from stage hypnosis. When he was teaching the doctors, he used the step of a rigid arm. And then he realized, well, you're working with the doctor, and the doctor is allowed to touch with no problem. And so he started doing the relaxation one. Back then, he said that the medical dictionary actually said catalepsy was either totally a relaxation or a rigid contraction of a muscle. So he was able to use both. So being online, and I can't always see the person, and I happen to have my computer up higher, I will let them sometimes take their other hand and push down on it. So go ahead and take your hand and push down. And as you push down, you'll find it either two things. Either it doesn't go down at all, or when it goes down and when you move your hand, it just pops right back up. And they take that suggestion. And then I slowly have them lower their arm. And when it touches the table or the chair or the lap, whichever it is, they go that much deeper. You can do that in a group fairly easily, you know. So if you listen to Dave's recording, it's relaxed out to the fingertips. So in a way, you're relaxing your hand, but you're creating a rigidity in the arm. Well, Jason was teaching a group of I think it was kids, and he looked out and there he was looking and seeing everybody like this. He's going, yeah, that's not so great. So that's when he came up with the idea of making a fist and switching it to that. And we've been using, and it actually makes it easier to become, to get the arm to be rigid also. The last of step 5 would be amnesia by suggestion. Okay. And that is the segue for that would be after they have done the catalepsy of the large group of muscles by suggestion, either one of those things. Well, now you have all the sense of physical relaxation that we need. Now let's go ahead and move on and go for amnesia, you know, for mental relaxation. So in a moment, I'm going to have you count backwards from 100 slowly and out loud. Now, if you're in person, one-on-one, or when you're on the online one-on-one with them, you can have them do it out loud. Otherwise, you can have them take it and do it in their mind's eye, in their imagination. And so, and as you say each number, you find that they begin to fade away. Just let it happen and it will happen. And when it does, you're going to find you feel so wonderfully relaxed. You just go and become so, there's just no more to count. And you become so mentally relaxed. You feel wonderful. And so, does it have to be numbers? No, let's say numbers is not as good for them. So you can use the days of the week backwards. You want it to be backwards because you don't want it to be so rote that it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You want them or maybe it's the months of the year backwards. Now I've heard people ask people to do the alphabet backwards. Is that conducive to trance? No, I have to think forward to get to the next letter backwards. Now, originally, Dave would ask, are they gone? And I found myself going, are they gone? Are they gone? And I stopped asking that because then they would start counting again. So instead, especially in working in a group, so I'll just ask them one-on-one, I'll say, and when they're gone, go ahead and nod your head. So I wait for them. I do have some troubleshooting things for doing that also. So you can so what would be some troubleshooting? Also in the group, I'll have them raise their hand because then I'd sit there and I couldn't necessarily see that they were nodding their head. So I would go ahead and so let's say they weren't losing the numbers. I would go ahead and you can, if you're there, you can do another arm drop, put all of them or the rest of them on your arm. And when I lift your hand and it plops down, just let them disperse and be gone. And then give it a moment and nod your head when they're gone. Or you can do a little Ericksonian white cloud and bring a little cloud and put all the rest of them or any parts of them back on the cloud and just push that cloud away and let it go off into the horizon. If they're a golfer, it might just go down along the fairway and behind a tree, or going out if you're at the beach, out across the waves, whatever it is, or you know about them from intake, or just a general one if you're doing it in a group. And when they're gone, you either nod your head or raise your hand. So a lot of people end right there, but I do an additional deepener. What is and why? If this line were the depth of trance and this line was somnambulism, when they get there and as they're breathing, they're going up and down over that line of somnambulism. So by doing another deepener, you find that it takes them even deeper. And throughout my sessions, I use different kinds of deepeners because all deepeners are, in a way, tests, deepeners, convincers, and that they all intertwine. You know, inductions can be deepeners, deepeners can be inductions. It's fun to play with. So that's basically it. Any questions? Any comments?
Yes, Cheryl.
You know,
Yeah, I've got it. Now we've got to get you in, Frank. There we go.
Yep.
Cheryl, there's a piece up front before you go for the eye catalepsy, which is where Dave runs a little free bit around. Can you imagine making a fist so tight that you couldn't make it any tighter? Could you imagine making your hand relax? Or so relaxed that you couldn't relax it any further? Could you talk to that a little bit about that pre-framing before going into eye catalepsy?
can you come closer and say it again and
Sure.
share that?
So in the in the scripting that I've seen, and I know that it's scripting, but Dave kind of ran a little piece where he encourages people to imagine their hand being so tight that they couldn't possibly make it any tighter, and then making the hand so relaxed that they couldn't, that it wouldn't work. He kind of leads in with that before he goes for eye catalepsy. Is that part of the original Elman inductive?
You know what? You know what? It might be in the Green Book. I've never heard Larry teach it, or Sean Michael Andrew, who are my two trainers mainly, or Jason Lynette. What he usually did to go into the induction, but he would also shake people's hands, you know, and he would check for warmth and things, which, but isn't that sort of interesting that you said that? Because look, Jason does it just so that they'll be able to do that later on. But the way Dave usually did it was he would go ahead and have them take a deep breath and then follow. He would, instead of having the hands this way, he would have it this way, and it would go up. And as it comes down, and you're close, and it's creating almost cross-eyed, and they're following it down, and go ahead and closing their eyes. So he would do that, as I know of the Forerunner. I'm not sure about that one, so I can't actually. I will listen for it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain.
I've never
pretty certain
used
I picked it up through that.
I think Mike Mandel also does that.
I think Mike Mandel does it as well, but
Yeah, he does, yeah.
it's almost like they imagine their hand being so tight that they couldn't possibly tighten it any further, and then relaxing the hand to the degree and to the extent that it doesn't just want to work. That's the quality of relaxation that I'm going to invite you to bring into your eyes. Or so it was kind of like a little pre-frame where they're almost imagining the process before they then go and do the process, and it almost seems like a bit of a rehearsal process as well. I believe. Did he?
I like that.
Did he demonstrate it, like the movement of the eyes, where he rehearses it for them before they then go and do it?
I'm gonna you know, I just it's interesting because I just took 15 hours of recording of Dave's and put it into a course on my ClickFunnels,
Okay.
and which is going to be offered. And I don't remember hearing that. I will check with Michael Mandel. I haven't spoken to him in a while. I'll give him a call and ask. How's that?
Well, tell him I say
And I also see I talk to Jason about 3 times a week. I'm in a class with him, so I'll ask him. But thank you. I will check on that.
Pleasure.
And Larry's not here to tell me or to address it. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
But breathing always helps. So basically, there's a lot of concepts of steps and stuff. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a question. Just
Come up to the question seat. Yeah.
Come on.
Yes.
Taking the microphone.
Yes.
where am I talking to?
You can talk to there.
I can see you. Yeah.
Hi, Cheryl. Going back to sort of the history of what you just spoke about, I was just interested with Dave training the doctors in that audio you played us. What, if it is known, what were the doctors using hypnosis or hypnotherapy for, and did any sort of feedback come back if they were successful at using it and what they were doing?
Yes. They were doing dentists were using it in their office. They were using it for needle phobia. They were using it to get people past the fear of dentistry. They would use it for numbing people. Dave Elman never took Novocaine or numbing. He had root canals done with nothing other than just his own mind. It was used for procedures. It worked. There was a thing called the magic spot that was developed by one of the pediatricians. So a lot of when Dave started teaching it, he was teaching the methods, and over the years, Larry took the course 3 times, and it kept developing with new concepts and new ideas because the doctors were out there field testing. If you think about it, they had full patient loads, and their patients were their guinea pigs, so to speak. And so they would come back and share with different things that occurred, and so the class kept expanding and evolving. And so they were on the road from 1949. They would teach like for 10 weeks and 10 lessons, and each week they'd go from one city to another, and this is before the highway system. So they would drive local to the next city, and they would sleep, and they would teach at night after the doctors finished teaching their day, and then they'd go out to a diner after the venue closed, and they would keep talking, and then they'd go to sleep and go to the next one. So yeah, they did that up until his and they made their way across the country because they were teaching in California and they lived in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey area. And they were in California when he had a heart attack in 1962. So from that point, he had to stop teaching. Now he recorded sessions, and those are the audio recordings we have. He had a portable reel to reel he would take with him. And he had lots of hours of recordings. Gil Boyne had a lot of those recordings, but after Gil died and we were at his offices in California, they had been stored down in the basement, and they basically turned to chemical. I mean, they were non-usable and sometimes just mush, But so we didn't have as much as there were originally was. And then he put together his 10 lesson set into records originally. First, actually, it was reel to reel. It was on tape because I actually have one tape that we had purchased. And then it was a 10 record set. So they did it. And then he continued from home. He would get calls from doctors occasionally asking questions, and then they would take out the big Rolodex and they would call doctors in that particular, if it was gynecology, he would call gynecologists in different cities and ask them to test this, get back to him. So he was doing some, field testing, orchestration from home, and then he passed away in 1967. So, so if that helps, does that help some?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot.
Did I answer did I get lost in it, or did
No,
I answer
no,
the original
no.
question?
It's all fascinating. And you mentioned some of the doctors were pediatricians, so I assume some children were being the technique was used on maybe some children, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. There was a pediatrician that came up with the thing called the magic spot. And what he did was he took, back then, that, they they didn't have the little foil things you did with the alcohol. With the gauze, they had a big jar of alcohol, and they took a little cotton ball and they went like this and put it on and then put it on the child. Well, he put some food coloring in it. And he said that he had just gotten this from Paris, and this stuff was like magic. When it's so numbing, if I put this on your arm, it's like going to be totally numb, and you're not going to be able to feel anything. This is your magic spot, this, and then he would get them to move it around their body. It was pretty cool. And so he said, and then he could give the injection to the kid, and it didn't bother them in the least. It was waking hypnosis. And so then he said, well, the one downfall was that, he ended up having a line of adults outside his door going, they wanted their magic spot.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
so that was pretty cool. So they came up with things. They used it for childbirth. They used it for headaches, migraines. They did a lot of regression. He has a record set called Hypnoanalysis and Hypnoanalysis, and it came with a little book, and so they were taped ones, a couple of stutterers, somebody with migraines. One was called, I think, When Your Husband is a Headache. So I mean, so it was interesting. It's interesting. And you're hearing some of those cases because where did he get his people from? Well, the doctors would bring in their wives, their nurses, or patients so that they had other people to work on, not just the doctors working on the doctors. I got a funny story for you. You know, the thing with the rigid arm? Well, Dave was going around as people were practicing, and he got to two doctors,
Well, the rigid
and one
tail.
of them had his legs straight out. Oh yeah, the cat. There's not a class I do that the Elman cat does not show up.
Very cute.
So he got the two doctors, and the guy's leg was straight out instead of his arm. And he goes, "What's going on here?" He goes, "Well, Dave, I got to tell you, I'm a podiatrist. And I sit down here. This is much more comfortable for me." So he did rigid leg instead of rigid arm.
Fantastic. Thank
So
you.
there's all kinds of stories. So, okay. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I do have another question about this particular slide here.
Yeah.
So another question. I'm going to have lots of questions for you, Cheryl.
That's okay.
I have a question, and that is if somnambulism traditionally has been considered to be the working state of hypnosis, what's your intention for trying to deepen that?
I'm sure they went down to Esdale. I'm sure they used Esdale for deeper, deeper surgeries or things. So there were times they worked on people that couldn't have any anesthesia. So going down to Esdale may keep somebody that much further. And I don't think somnambulism is the only thing. I mean, I use waking hypno. I mean, when do we start? When does hypnosis start? The first contact, or even before with your own marketing material, your first contact with your client or prospect. That's when it starts.
So this particular slide that you're showing here, Cheryl, where you've got somnambulism, and then you said you do these deepeners after. Is that with the intention of obtaining an Esdale state or Secourt?
No, it takes more. No, there are some people that shoot down to Esdale. Larry was one that went down to Esdale very quickly, very easily. But I remember he was in a class with Inez Simpson, and they four of them were trying to get him out. Do you mind? I know I haven't fed you. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Come here. Look at that beautiful face. Gizmo. So, and
don't feed him after midnight.
Here, wait, come here. Come over here. People want to meet you. He's disappearing, my poodle. Okay. So, So sometimes I want people deeper, but when you're talking to somebody in hypnosis and you're getting them to answer, their level is coming up too. Sometimes just deepening them, I just want to see where they're at and if they're responding. Are they sleeping? So then I do a thing called the Voc deepener, to see and to help modulate. So I'll just deepen them initially, and it doesn't have to be real deep. My deepener, my go-to deepener is, after I finish and they raise the hand, and now I'm going to count backwards from 5 to 1, and you go even deeper. 5 going down, 4, 3. So just doing a little bit and then moving into something. So if that helps.
Yeah, yeah.
So while I have you up here, can everybody see your face behind you on the screen? Because you're on the screen with me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So can I do something on you?
On me.
Yes.
On you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do something with me, sure.
So Paul,
Yes.
in a moment, Paul, just move over a little bit more because they can see you in the screen, and I want the people at home to be able to see you.
Yeah,
Okay. In a moment, I'm going to take 3 sips of water. The first sip I take, you're going to find your eyes starting to get heavy, just slightly heavier, and you'll find yourself blinking. The second time I take a sip, you're going to find they get heavier still, and they'll start blinking even more. And the third time I take a sip, your eyes are just going to close on down, and you'll go into a nice, comfortable trance. Is that okay with you?
The question is, do I want to?
Yes. Do you want to?
I'll go along with it. I'll go along with it, Cheryl. I've done this one before, so yes.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Ready? Okay.
Mhm.
Going down deeper and deeper and deeper. Good. Taking a nice deep breath in and going even deeper. And when you come up, you're going to find that you were so amused, you're going to choose somebody to come up and you're going to do something to them 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, opening your eyes, feeling alert and ready to move on. Now, did you feel yourself going? I couldn't see your eyes very much. Did you actually feel yourself going?
Let myself go. So yes, for sure.
Okay, so this is called the catalyst induction. And when Dave would do this and you might do this during a practice session, when Dave would do this, each doctor would get to do it and you'd go around the room. And as you would, each person had to do something totally different. So the concept is we're going to do something 3 times. The first time I do it, so it could be flicking your hair, it could be taking glasses on and off, it could be all different things, but you couldn't repeat what's already been done. So you can imagine by the time it got to doctor number 29 or 30, what they had to come up with. So the idea was to show you that anything can induce hypnosis. So if you would go ahead. So when Dave and Larry did it, they would sit there and give more cues as to, okay, in your eyes. So they'll be repeating it as they're going. I like to do it more dramatically as nonverbal, but I couldn't really see. You're too far away, so I couldn't see if it was really working. But I knew you were going to help anyway, just in case, because you knew what we were doing. But a lot of people, it's brand new to them. So that could be something you guys can practice. Do you want to pick somebody and bring them up? Bring a chair and come on up and you do it.
My colleague right here.
Why did I know that?
Bring a chair.
You got a chair here.
Oh, the chair right there. Yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic. We'll bring you.
Okay, now we want you in the picture too, so
Beautiful.
move on in, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Look like
Do you mind if I borrow your right hand? So in a moment, when I shake your hand 3 times, the first time I shake your hand, your eyes will start to feel heavier. The second time I shake your hand, you'll start to blink and you'll want to close those eyes, but you'll keep them open just. And the third time I shake those hands, don't go too quickly. You can open them now. Try. So, ready? Open the eyes. 1, 2, 3, all the way. That's it. Nice and deep. Just relaxing, going even more deeply into that. Doing perfectly. And imagine just how easily you'll be able to do this when it's your turn to choose someone in the room and what else you can add to this beyond just simply doing a handshake. And so only at the rate and pace and speed that's right for you, I'm going to invite you to slowly ratchet up into an upright position. Your eyes can open only as quickly or as slowly as it takes to go even more deeply into that experience. And return fully and completely. That's it. Nicely done. You went long before we even started.
Well, and now, and Laura and Paul, this is why when I do this, I generally, it's so weird to see you looking up because I realize the screen is now up there.
I look at you in the eyes.
And that's why I no longer take all 3 sips as I'm demoing it. I just tell them I'm going to do it. Like if you told them that what you were going to do, then when you went to do it, because I find that just doing it at the same time, that a lot of them are gone before I ever get to doing it 3 times. So
Second time
thank
round.
you very much, Lawrence. How did that feel?
I was aware also that if I slouched too far forward, I was going to probably land in your lap. So I can feel that there was still a rigidity there or something trying to avoid. Yeah, I know that would have been.
There was no rigidity over here. This is going to be one for our roof, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely like, okay, there was a part of me that was still holding back a bit because I was aware of the fact that I would slouch right down.
What the admins
You
do
would have caught you.
behind the scene, everyone.
So yeah, always be ready to catch them because you never know when you get somebody that just goes real deep and quick. So so now you have something new you can practice since a lot of you knew the Dave Elman induction. So you can practice either as you go to your practice session. Is there anything else I can answer for you guys?
Thank you. Yeah, Pat's got something into the chair of inquisitivity or wherever on the curiosity. Chair of curiosity. The chair of curiosity. That is it.
Chair of curiosity. Hi, Cheryl. My name's
Hi.
Katya. Hi.
What is I'm sorry, what's your name?
Katya.
Katya. Thank you.
Kat for short, if that's easier. I'm really interested in any of the resources for pain and phobias. Like the magic spot was beautiful. You know, where do we find those? Where do we find those resources or trainings or articles?
So, so the book Hypnotherapy, do you have that?
Probably.
It's the green book
It's
in
green.
gold letters that says
Yep.
Hypnotherapy.
Yep.
Yep.
Chances are I've got it. Yep.
Read through that, and it's there. But I also Elman Hypnosis. Actually, I'm going to be starting. If people are interested, I'm going to be doing a book study on the hypnotherapy book. I'd like to do one where it's times good enough for Australia and New Zealand also. I've done it, we did it years ago. And to not make it just me, we did it 6 times. So I have about 240 hours of video of Larry and I teaching it. So I'm going to be cutting the video and it'll be a combination of online and me facilitating, talking. It used to be a 12-week course, but I'm going to make it an 8-week course because a lot of it will be online also, where we go through the whole book all 23 chapters and go through in depth. And there's a lot of stories he tells. And then we also add in Dave Elman's recordings. So if you are interested in taking that course, because I'm just putting it together now, please, you can go ahead and email me I'm going to give you my new email. Cheryl at elmanhypnosis.com. Cheryl, Chery at elmanhypnosis.com. I've also got, I'm going to be, or I can give Lawrence the information to put out to everybody. I said I just put together the recordings that of Dave Elman from 3 different sets we had, and a lot of where Larry's describing some of the things also, including the records that Dave sent out before he ever did his big medical course. So he sent out. So there's a lot more resources. I'm doing a sleep talk class. There's a bunch more courses. That's what my goal is in the next few. I have thousands of hours of recordings that we've never looked at. We've been traveling. We taught in 17 countries, some of them 2, 3, and 4 times. And we were in Australia. We taught in Sydney and Melbourne and up in Brisbane. So elmanhypnosis.com is the current website, elmanhypnosis.com. And I also have people speaking in the cafe, the Elman Cafe. And I think, Lawrence, you are sending out that letter, or you sent out that letter with all the links?
It's in the PDF that was sent out, so everyone has got a copy of that.
Yep.
If they refer to the PDF, it's definitely all the information's in there.
And in fact, there's a guy named Drake Eastburn is speaking Sunday at 4 p.m. our time. So that's 6 in the morning your time, on Monday morning. And he's going to be talking on waking hypnosis. And he works a lot with athletes and stuff, and focus and getting past the point for him. And he is the hypnotist for the U.S. Olympic cyclist team. So, but there's 16 recordings right now in the cafe. They're free. Signing up and joining is free. I get people to talk on all different things. So if you're interested in more things on pain, I'll get somebody to talk on pain. We haven't had, but there's stuff in there. All different techniques, all different people from around the world speaking. I also have conferences. One of them's already up there. So I'm developing and really creating this website to live, beyond my life also. That's my goal. So that the Elman legacy, I guess I'm bringing the legacy forward, more electronically, and so that it'll be there, for the future too. So I'll be teaching classes. Do you use a control room for pain at all?
Yeah, often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just email me and I could think of some other resources for pain also.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you, Katya.
You too.
Okay. So please join the cafe, join us. There's ongoing. There's also in the cafe, we did a celebration of life for Larry, where hypnotists from around the world and some from the military that he served with spoke about Larry. Also, Dave Elman's grandson also spoke, and Tom Elman. So thank you very much. I'm going to leave you guys some time to have your tea and coffee. And nobody gave me any snacks here, Lawrence.
I should have organized something for you there. I'm sorry about that.
And I really enjoyed this. So I hope I didn't bore you then and gave you all information that you had, but now you have this in recording. I hope you got to see some of it in a different light.
Yeah, no, it was really fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you.
Yep,
Cheryl.
thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Oh, wait, before I go, I
Yeah.
have one thing. Can you shut the recording for a minute?
Yes.
Because this is for this group for showing up.
Uh,
Let me